Hello my dear students. In the last class we have discussed about the structure of prokaryotic cell, that is the cell of the bacteria. Today, before going to the eukaryotic cell, we will just briefly discuss about the differences between a prokaryotic cell as well as a eukaryotic cell. All of us know the prokaryotic cell as the cell with a primitive nucleus or incipient nucleus. Similarly, eukaryotic cell having a advanced or a prominent nucleus. Okay, we'll list out the differences between a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell. Okay, fine. The first difference is the prokaryotic cell contains incipient nucleus. Incipient nucleus. In contrast, the eukaryotic cell contains prominent nucleus. Okay, here the term prominent and here it is incipient. First we will see what is prominent nucleus in eukaryote. We have a cell either of plant cell or animal cell, and there is a genetic material in this. Okay, and this genetic material is covered by a nuclear membrane. In eukaryotes, the genetic material is covered by a nuclear membrane. Because of the presence of nuclear membrane, the nucleus is known as a prominent nucleus, advanced nucleus, well developed nucleus. But in case of prokaryotes, there is the genetic material, circular single chromosome, but the genetic material is not covered by the nuclear membrane. Genetic material is not covered by nuclear membrane, hence it is known as a incipient nucleus or the primitive nucleus. Incipient or a primitive nucleus. Here prominent or advanced nucleus or well developed nucleus. Right? This is the basic difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Right? So moving on to the next difference here. When we say the prokaryotic cell, the cell organelles. Cell organelles are absent. Whatever the membrane bound organelles are there, they are all absent. But when we come to eukaryotic cell, the cell organelles are present. Cell organelles are present. What are those cell organelles here? Inside the cell, we have endoplasmic reticulum. We have a Golgi complex, right? We have mitochondria. We have a chloroplast. We have lysosomes. So many of such organelles are present only in case of a eukaryotic cell, and all those cell organelles are absent in case of a prokaryotic cell. They are all absent in a prokaryotic cell. Then you may ask a question, all these organelles have a particular function, they perform one function. Then who will perform the functions of those organelles in prokaryotic cell? Okay, whenever we call it a cell, it must have all those activities to be performed by the cell. Then though it is not having those organelles, how it is performing the functions of those organelles? Yes, it also performs all those functions, but those things present, those cellular inclusions are present inside the prokaryotic cell, they are only involved in performing those functions. We will see what are those in detail one by one. Okay. First, when we say functions like mitochondria. Function of mitochondria, that is respiration. Respiration. Here also respiration. It means the respiration is performed by mitochondria here. In eukaryotic cell, respiration is performed by mitochondria. Then what about those prokaryotic cell? Respiration performed by mitochondria. Here in prokaryotic cell, though it is not having the mitochondria in it, but the inner membrane or the plasma membrane, it will form the finger-like projections into the cytoplasm. Those finger-like projections known as mesosomes. Finger-like projections are known as mesosomes. They are involved in the respiration. And that is why the plasma membrane or the cell membrane is also called a respiratory membrane. In case of prokaryotes, the cell membrane is called a respiratory membrane since it is containing the enzymes for respiration. Whatever the enzymes necessary for respiration, they are present on inner side of the plasma membrane. Hence, the membrane is called as a respiratory. Hence, it is performing the respiration. But in eukaryotes, plant cell, animal cell, the membrane performs only the transport and protection, but not the respiration. Right? This is about the respiration. Then, in eukaryotes, mainly the plant cell, it contains plastids. Like chromoplast, chloroplast, leucoplast, 3 are there. We will discuss in later on. So, plastids are present. Here, in case of prokaryotes, the plastids are absent. Okay, what are plastids? We have 3 types of plastids here. I'll just briefly discuss. One is a leucoplast. One is a chromoplast. Other one is a chloroplast. So, leucoplast is colorless, chromoplast is colored but other than green. Here, chloroplast is green plastid, which help in photosynthesis. Okay, this will provide green color having a chlorophyll pigment. This will provide all other colors, and this is colorless plastid. Okay. So, they are present in a plant cell, one of the eukaryote. But these plastids are absent in a prokaryotic cell. Those plastids are absent in a prokaryotic cell. We will discuss this again in detail about the plastids later classes. Fine, we will just now erase it. Plastids are absent. Then, here on the nuclear membrane, we have an organelle called endoplasmic reticulum. We have an organelle called as endoplasmic reticulum. On this endoplasmic reticulum, there are minute structures which are known as ribosomes. Ribosomes that help in synthesis of proteins, protein synthesis. Okay, then where these ribosomes are present here, and what are the types of ribosomes? Here we will just discuss. Here, in case of prokaryotes, ribosomes are of 70S type. Here ribosomes are 80S type. Okay. Here you should remember the term S stands for sedimentation coefficient. Sedimentation coefficient, or the scientist who named as Swedberg unit. Swedberg unit. So the S stands for sedimentation coefficient or Swedberg unit. Hence it is as S, 70S, 70 units, as well as 80 units, 80S. Okay, we'll discuss again this in detail about the 70S ribosomes, 80S ribosomes and their function and their structure in further classes in the same chapter. So the ribosomes are of 70S in case of prokaryotes, and they are of 80S type in eukaryotes. Right. Then either prokaryote or eukaryote. Some of the eukaryotes, like plants, they prepare the food by photosynthesis. Some of the prokaryotes also perform photosynthesis. Right. For photosynthesis, there is a need of the pigment called as a chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment. Right. The pigment is present inside a small sac-like structures known as thylakoids. They contain the green colored pigment that will help in a photosynthesis, trapping the light. Okay. So here in case of prokaryotic cell, those thylakoids are freely floating in the cytoplasm. Thylakoids are freely floating in the cytoplasm. Better we'll write thylakoids are freely floating in cytoplasm. Here in eukaryote, the thylakoids are present in stacks in chloroplast. Means inside the cell there is an organelle known as a chloroplast. Inside the chloroplast, the organelles, the thylakoids are stacked one above the other. Like that many stacks are there. Okay. Generally we call this unit as thylakoid. One single unit as thylakoid. When it is complete, it is called as a granum. Right. We'll discuss in later classes. So thylakoids, the units of photosynthesis, light absorption, they are freely floating in cytoplasm. In case of prokaryote, they are present in stacks one above the other in a chloroplast in eukaryotes. Right. This is the one of the major difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay. Moving on to the next difference. Here we have a basic process in the cell. Every cell must have to undergo all those processes. That is the DNA, genetic material. Right. It has to be converted into the mRNA. Then the mRNA should be converted into the proteins. So the process where DNA converts into mRNA, this is called as known as transcription. And the process where mRNA converts into the proteins, it is called as a translation. Right. Here difference in between the two is, first, transcription and translation both occur in cytoplasm. But in case of eukaryotes, transcription occurs in nucleus and translation occurs in cytoplasm. Translation occurs in cytoplasm. We'll just discuss in detail about this. In prokaryotes, only DNA is present. Only DNA is present, and the DNA is not covered by a membrane. But when we come to eukaryote, when inside the cell we have a nucleus, that contains DNA. Then the DNA should become mRNA now. This process occurs inside the cytoplasm. That is, translation occurs in nucleus in eukaryotes. After transcription, this comes out of the nucleus. And inside the cytoplasm, the mRNA converts into proteins. That is the translation. But here the nucleus is not covered by the membrane, so the transcription occurs in cytoplasm as well as a translation occurs in a cytoplasm. Right? Since only simple reason is the genetic material is not covered by cell membrane, hence both transcription as well as translation forming the proteins occurs in cytoplasm only. But inside the nucleus, DNA converts into mRNA. The process is transcription inside the nucleus, and mRNA converts into proteins, translation inside the cytoplasm. Okay, again we will discuss this concept in a second PUC, that is in a molecular basis of inheritance. We will discuss there. Next difference. Coming to cell division, there are two types of cell division: mitosis, meiosis. Okay, in mitosis what happens? The diploid cell after division remain diploid only. But after meiosis, a diploid cell should become haploid. It should become a haploid. Right. Here, though the cells are they are haploid, there is no need of one more thing. If it is diploid, it becomes diploid. If it is haploid, it remains as haploid in mitosis. Okay. Since the prokaryotes are haploid, they undergo only mitosis. There is no meiosis. Okay, since mitosis occurs in both, it's common. But meiosis do not occur in prokaryotes. But here meiosis occurs. It is present here and it is absent here. Right. One more thing. Then what about mitosis in prokaryote, mitosis in eukaryote? There's a small difference. During mitosis, mainly during metaphase, anaphase and telophase, there is a formation of a spindle or spindle fibers. We'll discuss in cell division. So the spindles are not formed. Mitotic spindle are not formed. Okay, those spindle fibers are not formed in a prokaryote, but in eukaryotes they are formed. Mitotic are formed. Mitotic spindle are formed in prokaryotes. Okay. So the last point in this, the prokaryotes include the bacteria, that is of kingdom Monera, maybe cyanobacteria, maybe mycoplasma, maybe spirochete, lastly the Kidseae. Okay, here the eukaryotes include protists like your amoeba, euglena, paramecium, protozoans and slime molds, etc. It includes fungi and includes plants and animals. So guys, these are the basic differences among prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So to make notes better, you pause the video and you can clearly write those, right? You can, at the end of video, better you listen completely, and then lastly you once pause the video, then you can write all those points, right? So in the next class we'll discuss eukaryotic cell in detail. Okay, when we say eukaryote, we have eukaryote. There are two major types of organisms. One is plant cell, other one is animal cell. So in the next class we'll discuss about the differences between a plant cell as well as a animal cell. Till then, keep learning. Thank you one and all.